but I teach about the tithe. And I do not teach that Christians should pay tithe. But I'm not going to stop a Christian from giving tithe. But I teach about the tithe. And I do not teach that Christians should pay tithe. But I'm not going to stop a Christian from giving tithe. I cannot stop a Christian from giving tithe, because tithe means tenth. If your generosity is 10%, I cannot say don't give your 10%. That is the level of your generosity or the revelation of your stinginess. Okay? That out of 100%, when you imagine the work of God and the goodness of God, the space your heart can create for God is 10%. It's a revelation of your stinginess. Because if people under the blood of goats and animals were faithfully giving 10%, then somebody under the finished work of Christ, which they without us could not be perfect, you two are struggling with them within the mire of 10%. Then it's either you're stingy or you have not yet understood anything. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. See that? And that's the revelation of the New Testament. The revelation of the New Testament destroys self. It makes you selfless. The revelation of the New Testament brings out of you an expression of extravagant love. The same way you receive from God is the same way you release to the brethren. That's what this revelation does. That's what it does. And a lot of pastors think we're advocating stinginess, but they don't even know that they are the ones advocating stinginess. We are actually the ones advocating extravagant giving. Because how do you box Christians within the confines of 10% with the love of God shed abroad in their hearts by the Holy Ghost? How do you limit them? In Acts of the Apostles, people sold lands and houses and brought everything. Why? New Testament. Nobody paid tithe in the book of Acts. In the entire transitioning of the church, as low as they were in Revelation, with all their cross-testamental application, that is one application they never carried over. They never carried over tithing. Never. Because the first thing the love of God does to a man is that your heart is taken over. Your heart, except you don't know what it means to be born again, except you don't know who Christ is to you, that is when you will be counting. Father, I give you, you give me. If I give you, you don't give me, I will not give again until the day you give me. No, you are not in a relationship. You are in a transaction. You are in a business. You are not in a relationship with God. Because if you're in a relationship with God, it's not about I give you, you give me. It is about you have given me all that I ever needed. There's nothing I can ever do that will be enough. So I keep doing my best in response to what you have already done for me. Are we teaching good here? Yeah. You can choose to give 10%. But do not give it according to Abraham or Moses. You didn't hear that. Do not give it according to Abraham or Moses, whether before the law or after the law or both of them. We are never told to copy or do or live like Abraham. Never. Nowhere in the Bible. In fact, Hebrews chapter 12 verse 1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, including Abraham, including Moses, they are compassed about. Let us lay aside every wave and the sin that does easily beset us, and let us run the race with patience that is set before us. Look at the next verse. Looking unto Jesus. Looking there in the Greek is look away from Moses. Look away from Abraham. Look away from them. Look unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of faith. So the writer of Hebrews says, look away from Abraham, because if you look at Abraham, you will live in shadows. If you look at Abraham, you attention in shadows. Look away from shadows. Look away from types. Look at the reality, Jesus, because he is the substance of what they hoped for.
Dr. Abel Damina's stance on tithing is distinctive, even if it may initially sound similar to other pastors. He teaches about tithing to provide understanding but clarifies that he does not instruct Christians to pay a tithe as a compulsory act. Instead, he emphasizes that giving should come from a place of genuine generosity and personal conviction, not as an obligation. When he says, "I am not going to stop a Christian from giving a tithe because tithe means tenth," he's acknowledging that if someone chooses to give 10% of their income, it's a reflection of where they are in their understanding of giving. He interprets giving a specific percentage, like 10%, as either the person's level of generosity or, potentially, as a revelation of stinginess, if it's done simply out of obligation rather than heartfelt generosity. Dr. Damina's perspective contrasts with traditional teachings that often present tithing as a requirement. Instead, he encourages believers to embrace giving as an expression of love and faith, guided by grace rather than law. His message focuses on giving as an act of free will, rooted in a deeper understanding of God's grace, which sets it apart from more conventional approaches.